So just to jump right in, the last one of these we did, I was really surprised how many folks were new to our study groups and new to TWiML. Um, Maybe less so new to TWiML, but I just wanted to start with a little bit about us and our mission. We're really here to make the lives of our listeners and our community and their communities more rich by making machine learning and AI more accessible and sharing and amplifying the voices of a broad and diverse spectrum of ML and AI practitioners, researchers, and innovators through everything we do. That includes the podcast as well as educational programs like the study group that you're here to learn about. Last time, I mentioned this poll that I did last time. I am going to launch that again. This will allow us to learn a little bit about you. This is one of a couple of polls that we'll do here, but this one's really just asking about your prior participation in one of our study groups. Let us know if you've done this before. We'll leave this open for a few more seconds. So get your votes in quickly.
You should have some Jeopardy music playing right now, Sam.
Do, 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 do. Absolutely should. Do, 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 do. All right. And I can share the results. You should be seeing those on your screen. So a lot of folks are new, just like last time. Either just found out about this and decided to join us on this call, or longtime listener, first time caller kind of thing. But a few folks have done, either started or completed one or more courses with us. So awesome! But welcome again, everyone. A little bit about the study groups. So we started these we're in our second year of doing study groups. It started with a podcast that I did with Rachel Thomas, who is one of the founders, along with Jeremy Howard of Fast AI. And they produced these really great courses, the Fast AI Machine Learning course, Fast AI Deep Learning course, a natural language processing course. And they're designed with this kind of top-down, really unique top-down approach. So the deep learning course in particular was the one that we did first, where you really just had to know how to code, know your way around Python. And these courses would have you from the very first lesson building world-class machine learning models. And we've done, I want to say, at least half a dozen kind of cohorts of learners through that course. And then, we've had folks continue on to do the second course in that series, as well as a bunch of other courses. And really, what these study groups are all about is community learning together. And I think Jeremy Howard, who is one of the forces again behind the Fast AI courses, said it best. Like, he's seen over years of doing these courses that folks that learn as part of a group have much better results. They learn more and they stick with it longer. And hopefully we'll also have more fun in the process. So that's why we're here. And the course that we are talking about today, that we are launching now, is one that is a collaboration between TWiML and IBM. It's around a really, really interesting sequence called the AI Enterprise Workflow specialization that's up on Coursera. Ray, who is with us this morning / afternoon, depending on where you are, is the instructor for the course. And we're super lucky and excited to have him here to share a little bit more details about the course. Before we dive into the course though, Ray, tell us a little bit about yourself and your background.
Sure. So I work for IBM. I've been with IBM. I left and came back, but I started with IBM in 2000. I was a consultant. I have been involved with basically science and mathematics my whole life. My original training was as a neuroscientist many, many years ago.
Mm,
Um, but got into artificial intelligence also many, many years ago, and eventually came to work for the IBM Watson Group, which is now called the Data and AI Group. I started out by doing education and training for various products, visual recognition, natural language processing. And then we started growing our data science practice, and I got involved with that, and here I am. So,
awesome.
so yeah, I love working for IBM. It's been a great ride.
Awesome. Awesome. So, uh, let's start out with a little bit about the kind of the broad purpose of the course. And I'll let you, these are Ray's slides, and Ray sent them over to me to integrate into this deck so we don't have to switch back and forth. But Ray, you tell me when you want to advance the slides. But let's, start here with your first slide, just around what the course is hoping to achieve.
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, Sam, I wanted to thank you for having me on, and I'm very honored to be on your on your podcast. It's definitely an honor to be here. This course was the work of a cast of thousands. It wasn't just obviously me. It's a lot of work. We had a lot of data scientists and learning architects. I put together all of the learning objectives, wrote a lot of the content, did some videos, a lot of videos. So I was in charge of coordinating the whole thing and putting it all together. But it was a labor of I won't say love, but it was it was definitely a labor involving a lot of people. But the purpose of the course is to help increase the number of data scientists with a basic understanding of working in a large enterprise. As you know, and as probably everybody in the audience knows, it's important but tough to get real world experience as a data scientist. It's just growing so fast, and there's so many people out there that claim to be data scientists, and it's really hard to find people that have actual experience end to end working in a large enterprise as data scientists. So the purpose of this whole thing, the purpose of the course and the certification that goes with it, was to try to increase that number by giving people a set of courses that as best we could simulated the experience of working and solving problems, data science related problems in a large enterprise. So that was the whole purpose of this thing. The whole focus was data science, large enterprise, AI workflow.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that it's on Coursera is absolutely wonderful, because one of the big things that we want to do in data science is increase the diversity of folks in data science, because data science is a science. You're hunting for things, you're looking for patterns, and the more brains that are hunting for those patterns, the better your probability is that you're going to find interesting patterns. So you really need to have a lot of variety on your data science teams. That's one of the things I really like about it being on Coursera, is that it's available to the great unwashed masses. Anybody can do this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one of the things that has been really awesome to see over the past several years in data science and machine learning in particular is kind of a growing appreciation that it's about more than just the model, right?
Right.
A lot of our early focus as a community, both the learners and practitioners and, media, is like the model, new algorithm this, new algorithm that. And there's still,
I remember those days. Yeah.
There's still a lot of that.
Sure, absolutely.
But, there's an increasing recognition, particularly as folks in enterprises try to drive value from their machine learning efforts and investments, that it's about more than just the model. It's about from the beginning of the process, and you'll kind of walk through this flow when you talk about the courses, because the courses are really focused on this. But There's all kinds of activities that have to take place to get the model into production. And I say all that to say that, one of the reasons why I'm really excited about this course is that, unlike many of the courses that are out there that focus on, model, which again, it's important. But there's so much more with, regards to getting the model, all the way into production so that it's you're able to get value out of it.
The analogy that I use is, let's say you're a scientist and, let's say you're a neuroscientist and, your tool of choice is the, brain imaging. You take pictures of brains while people are doing things. What you're doing isn't about the machine. It's not about that, the fMRI machine, the MRI machine. It's about the things you do with it, the theories that the hypotheses that you falsify, the papers that you publish, the things that you discover about how the brain works. That's what it's about. So, yeah, we obviously the models are important. Obviously, you got to understand your linear algebra and your probability and the use of R and Python, but it's a lot more than that. That is exactly what we try to convey in this course.
Awesome. So I think I stuck another poll in here, and this one is really trying to get at attendees' backgrounds. And while folks are responding to this poll, Ray, maybe you can talk a little bit about the intended background of the folks that take this course.
Absolutely. So this course is intended for practicing data scientists, not for, if you're an aspiring data scientist who doesn't have a lot of background in it, you're going to find this course difficult, if not impossible to complete. It'll be tough. This is for somebody who is already comfortable using Jupyter notebooks and Python and R and mostly Python and Jupyter notebooks, and also understands the purposes and uses of different algorithms. So it's somebody who's already a practicing scientist, but wants to take their experience up another notch to deal with enterprise level problems. That's exactly the sweet spot. Because there's tons of stuff out there introducing you to data science, tons. I can't go to my Facebook or LinkedIn feed without seeing 25 courses flying by on my feed. This is for practicing data scientists who want to take their game up another notch.
So it looks like our audience is all in the right place. So we've got looks like 30% of folks, their primary experience with data science and machine learning is via online courses.
Yep.
36% of folks have less than a couple of years professional experience, and about 23% have extensive professional experience.
That's a great mix because Sam, what you were saying earlier about the social aspect of learning, how it's better to learn in groups. This is a great mix of folks because you've got your 23% down there who can talk about their experience to the rest of the folks that would really like to learn about it.
Yep, exactly. And those, I think, those whose experience is mainly via online courses, don't get scared away by Ray's comments. We will make it through this.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we do provide solutions to the problems, for example. So the exercises are our solutions that you can download and look at. So yeah, it's not like a blank sheet of paper with one formula at the top, say, figure this out. No, it's there's a lot of guidance. So.
Yeah. And we'll supplement that with the study group. So Ray, why don't you walk through the kind of key components of the course for us?
So these are the things that we wanted to make sure we integrated into the course. First of all was the narrative. We started out by saying we want to have a real life enterprise story to tell. And the narrative is an over-the-top media company called Avail, that we gave it the name Avail, has hired a bunch of data scientists to consult on dealing with some issues related to their market. They're declining subscriptions to their streaming media service.
So those data scientists, that's us. right?
Exactly. that's you. that's you. You're part of a team and blah blah blah. So yeah,
Yep.
so that and of
I
course,
love that aspect of the course. It's awesome.
yeah. That actually took that was what I spent most of my time on, was writing this narrative.
Mm.
Uh, but and then the other thing too is that we wanted to make sure that we incorporated best practices. So we had, like extremely well qualified data scientists who'd been doing this forever, who put this thing, who put a lot of the exercises together with the mind toward learning best practices. So pretty much everything that you see and do, that you're told to do in this course, is based on best practices. One of the nice things I like about this course is that all the code that you get, you can reuse it for other things. It's all of the notebooks and the code are very useful. Um, Another important principle is end-to-end workflow, all the way from where's your data, finding it, massaging it, doing feature engineering, building pipelines, choosing algorithms, building an initial test model, and then finally deploying a model to production, and then monitoring the performance of that model for bias and for performance, of course, make sure it's giving the answers that we expect. All of that has been incorporated into this course from soup to nuts, from beginning to end. The other thing too is we had to have some sort of framework for organizing the work, because you're on a project, right? You're on a project team building, solutions for a client. And the framework that we chose was design thinking. Design thinking is a way of organizing projects that involves really getting a deep understanding of clients and their problems and their data. It's an approach that we use at IBM extensively to organize our AI projects, particularly our AI projects, because AI projects by their nature are complex. They involve not only people but also data and machines. So it's a very complex thing, and design thinking helps us to organize all of that.
Now, I wasn't familiar with design thinking, and the course suggests that you have some familiarity with it,
Yeah.
which I didn't. But when I dug into it, it seemed like a kind of like an agile methodology,
It is. Yeah, it is.
right? Like
It's in that same zeitgeist, that same genre
yeah,
of, like, flexible, complex, flexible work. Yeah.
yeah.
And essentially it has practices that make sure that everybody is communicated to. It has practices and exercises that ensure that uh, all different aspects of a project are dealt with, and that the results are communicated.
Hmm.
It's basic. Yeah, that's a really good way to understand it. Is sort of like, it's like an agile methodology for projects, but it
Okay.
also involves a lot of intimate uh, uh, data gathering and relationships with the client to make sure that you
Hmm.
understand precisely what the client needs and what they want. That's the central focus of design thinking, is understanding the needs and wants of the particular user or client.
Hmm. Okay.
And I'm shocked, Sam. I thought you knew everything. You never heard of
Not at
design thing.
all.
I'm totally
I'm
shocked.
here to learn.
I'm here to learn. Exactly. The other thing too, we wanted to make sure we incorporated in this course is lots of code, lots of useful actual Python code. So there's tons of that. You don't have to have any special tools or anything to take this course. As long as you've got Python and Jupyter notebooks, and all of the Python, NumPy, SciPy, all of the libraries that you would need for to do machine learning, you're good to go. And then finally, since we're IBM, we integrated the course. We integrated IBM Watson solutions in the course. So we introduce you to IBM visual recognition, IBM natural language processing, and also IBM OpenScale, which is our tool for monitoring the performance and looking for bias in machine learning models, which is it's a pretty handy tool. We introduce you to the use of that so that you can go ahead and learn how to monitor machine learning models in a large enterprise environment. Because typically you build machine learning models and it's running on your laptop, or you build a little you build a little front interface for it and pop it on a server somewhere. And a couple of people use it, and everybody's happy. But we're talking like the next level. Deploying a model that potentially hundreds, if not thousands, of people might want to use, and bang on it pretty hard. So that's what we talk about. So we introduce you to the use of Watson machine learning, which is a very scalable way of deploying machine learning models, and the open scale for testing and monitoring the performance of the model.
Now, one of the first questions I asked you about this was, hey, is this course a commercial for, Watson Solutions? Do I have to use this stuff?
Exactly. Yeah. We were really cognizant of that, because I know that a lot of people would open it up, and if they saw the first video say, welcome to IBM Watson, they'd be like, oh, no, we don't want to do this. And, I get that, right? I totally get that. No, this is not a commercial for IBM. Obviously, you do not have to use any of the Watson tooling for any of this course. We introduce it because we want to show you that we know about enterprise level AI. We have the tools for enterprise level AI. And if you're wise, you should probably learn this stuff. But aside from that, you can use your good old Python and Jupyter notebooks on your own machine, and you could get through this entire course just fine. We do have another tool that we introduced in this course called Watson Studio. Watson Studio is our web-based tool for data science. You can essentially do everything that you would do with a Jupyter notebooks on your machine that you can do in Watson Studio. And we say in the course, if you want to use Watson Studio, here's how you do it. If not, you're fine. Just go ahead and run your stuff locally and have fun. So yeah, this is definitely not a whole IBM pitch or anything like that, but obviously we want to get people interested in knowing about our solutions, because we think and we know that we're the best solutions for enterprise level AI.
Jess is asking about pricing and options for nonprofit and higher ed. I think we probably won't go into detail on that, Jess, but I will say that I use the Watson machine learning to go through the first few lessons, and the notebook offering looked great, and there's a free tier, so you don't have to pay anything to
all of the exercises in the course can be run with the IBM Watson free tier. So if you go to the IBM cloud, which is cloud.ibm.com, and then sign up for an account, you can get access to all of the AI tooling that we have, including the Watson Studio and the Watson Machine Learning. And all of those tools can be used at their free level to execute all of the code here in this course.
All right, so let's jump into going into more detail about the courses themselves and what each one is focusing on.
Absolutely.
So just to make it clear, that this is a sequence, right? It's not individual courses. Maybe talk about that kind of superstructure.
Yeah, that's kind of a tough one. The reason being that the Coursera platform didn't give us a real good way to link these courses together as a sequence. For whatever reason, they just don't do that. So, within a specialization, which is a specialization is a cluster of courses, basically. That's their organizing principle. Within a specialization, you can hop from course to course however you want. However, these courses are laid out in a very specific sequence because we're dealing with a workflow. We're dealing with a workflow A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So, you kind of have to take them in sequence, and we have them labeled as such, starting with course 1 and ending with course 6. Course 1 introduces you right off the bat to the narrative of Avail, telling you the whole story about what their situation is. And then we start talking about looking for data and ingesting data. We also talk about the important things that are necessary for a good data scientist to work in a large enterprise, chief of which is scientific thinking. We actually have a little section in there where we go into the basics of hypothesis testing and scientific thinking, because in large enterprises, or anywhere really, but you're going to be doing that a lot. You're going to be running different models and engineering different features and trying them out and seeing what happens. We also have sections in there on understanding what the data are. And then finally, linking your work as a data scientist to actual real business opportunities. We felt it was really important that we emphasize the fact that whatever you do as a data scientist, it has to be linked back to actual measurable business challenges and business opportunities. So we emphasize that from the get-go. There's a section in there talking about design thinking. If you haven't heard of it, we introduce you to a couple of videos that you can look at to learn a little bit about design thinking. You do not have to be a design thinking practitioner or expert. Basically, you just have to have a high level familiarity with the language. So we have some videos that help you with that. We also have a little pre-test, like if you're not sure you're ready for this course, we have a little pre-test quiz that you can take to see, how well, if you're ready for it. Yeah, this is where you get started, and you dump you right into the data and just start going through the data and understanding what the data that's available within the Avail company that you're working for.
Nice. And so course 2.
Course 2, after you have successfully completed course 1, you go into course 2, data analysis and hypothesis testing. This is the big EDA section. This is where we go exploratory data analysis and talk a lot about visualization and data analysis, just being able to show, for example, show the client different views of the data and different, while you're doing your exploratory analysis. Also, we talk about hypothesis testing, setting up, for example, setting up different pipelines for testing different hypotheses. The handling of missing data, and looking for outliers. Practically, we introduce you to the use of things like sparse matrices, for example, in doing some of this stuff. Get you right into it. There's a lot of online, a lot of code generation here, a lot of stuff to do in this course.
All right, course 3.
Course 3, feature engineering. That, for me, this was like the toughest course because feature engineering. What can you say? It's a big area. There's just so much to cover, but what we really tried to focus here was we tried to stick to the problem, right? The problem that you have, and really to show best practices for feature engineering. The other thing too, aside from talking about things like class imbalances and dimensionality reduction, detecting outliers, and using unsupervised learning to define your little groups and clusters. We also talk about the IBM AI Fairness Toolkit. The Fairness Toolkit is a set of Python libraries that allows you to detect bias in your data. So it's before you get into the machine learning that it allows you to look for bias in the data. To see if there's, weird class imbalances, for example, too much of one data type versus another, et cetera, to see if there's going to be some type of bias reflected in the testing and training that you're going to do later on with these data. So it's one of our bigger courses because there's a lot to cover. A lot of code here and a lot of best practices related to feature engineering and detecting bias in your data.
Mm-hmm. Course 4.
Course 4, machine learning, visual recognition, and NLP. So we start talking about building and evaluating pipelines, the different types of pipelines that you might use to feed a machine learning model, and different types of machine learning models, all the different algorithms that you can pick and choose from, what are the costs and benefits of each of the more popular ones. We introduce IBM Watson visual recognition. mainly to get folks used to working with a tool that already has pre-trained machine learning models. Visual recognition out of the box can recognize hundreds of thousands of objects in scenes and in pictures. And so it's already been trained. So we wanted to show people how you might integrate a pre-trained model, out of the box model, with something that you might be building. And also, similarly, the IBM Watson Natural Language Understanding Service, out of the box, the NLU system is able to understand a lot of the aspects of several different languages, not just English, and categorize different entities and relationships that it finds in a particular ontology, and it can be customized as well. So we introduce the learners to how to use and customize visual recognition, how to use and customize NLU, natural language understanding.
And is the idea that these pre-trained services can be integrated into pipelines with models that you're building yourself?
Ultimately, that's the idea. Yeah, absolutely. So that some of the outputs, for example, of NLU could be used to feed a pipeline down, that would then go on to feed maybe a machine learning model. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So if you didn't want to use the Python NLP libraries and build your own NLP services, you could just use NLU instead, Watson NLU, and then take the JSON outputs from that and feed it into a pipeline. But again, this is a course that, one of the things about this course is that it's pretty apparent that you're going to be working in a large enterprise. You have access to all of these high-end tools on the IBM cloud, or in a cloud that's behind the company firewall. And you have to know about them. You have to know that they're there, what they can do, and the possibilities of integrating them with your own work. And that's really the purpose of this course, is to get you to be aware of them, so that you can maybe make your life a little bit easier in the future.
Mm-hmm. So Key is asking a question relevant to this slide. Will the use of IBM tools limit the students to those tools rather than open source tools that are more flexible? And we've talked a little bit about this, but it's the question that always comes up, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. No,
you mentioned a bunch of open source stuff. That's a big part of this sequence.
Mm-hmm. No? Oh yeah, this sequence is all open source. And one thing I do want to point out is, at IBM, we are extremely dedicated to open source technology. All of our data science and machine learning tooling is based on open source. So if you go to our principal data science tool is a tool called IBM Watson Studio. That is entirely based on open source technology. So you can go in there and set up Python, run Python. You can set up Jupyter notebooks. You can set up Apache Spark, to run your models. It's all entirely based on open source tooling. Now, having said that, like I said, you don't have to use any of these tools. You can go ahead and use your own, homegrown stuff that's based on open source libraries. Again, the purpose of this particular course was really just to introduce you to the fact that some of this stuff exists in big enterprises. They're going to have this stuff, and you might have to talk to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and as a learner, if you're going through this and you've got more familiarity with some of the other competitive options out there for services, you can try those as well.
Exactly.
See how they perform relative to one another.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a great thing to do. Just go ahead and go to Google, Amazon, Azure, and us, and see how they work. See how they work relative to each other. Compare and contrast.
Mm-hmm. Cool. So course 5 takes us into deployment.
Yeah. So we're getting close to the end here. So, you've built something right now, you want to deploy it. So we talk about the deployment of machine learning models. in a large enterprise. And we stick to primarily using Apache Spark and Docker containers, because that's the thing, you know, open source thing that's being used now, or, you know, containerizing things. And Apache Spark is an extremely popular substrate for running machine learning models. So we talk a lot about that, but we also introduced the learner to IBM Watson Machine Learning, which is our platform for deploying machine learning models. But guess what's under the hood? Apache Spark. We basically just have a very sexy front end in front of Apache Spark. And also Watson Studio, which, as I said earlier, is our front end for all of the open source tools that you might use as a data scientist, including Python, Jupyter Notebooks, Spark, etc.
There's also a module in this course on deploying models via Flask as microservices. Is that right?
Exactly. Yep. Yeah. So which is probably the most common way to do it, right? Build a little Python Flask shell for it, you know, front end for it, and pop it in a container and pop it out there. That's yeah, we cover that. Absolutely.
Okay. All right, cool. And then
Course 6.
Now,
once you got the thing chugging along, right? As you know, it's an AI, so you can't just say, "Okay, see you later." You now have a little entity that's going to require a lifetime of care and feeding. So the final course covers that whole thing. Covers the performance monitoring. And unit testing, the basics of unit testing, right? That everybody uses with open source tools. The performance monitoring involves essentially just making sure that the data pipeline changes in the data pipeline haven't caused changes in the outputs of the model. And then we also talk about the use of IBM Watson OpenScale. IBM Watson OpenScale is a tool that essentially analyzes and looks at the inputs and the outputs of a particular machine learning model and looks for bias in those models. So for example, it's really good at detecting like the classic types of bias, like gender bias, age bias, race bias, things of that nature. It's really good at finding those sorts of bias. Looking at the gazintas and the gozautas of a particular machine learning model. And then finally, we have a capstone project. It's a project that's for this specialization, which essentially involves you going end to end from the very beginning, from hunting through the data to doing deciding what data to use, doing your feature engineering, setting up your pipelines, deciding which algorithm you're going to use, building your model, and then deploying it, and then testing it. All of that is included in the capstone project. We walk you through that, walk you through all the steps, and get you to build some good code to complete it.
Awesome. Whoops. All right. So Wendy in the Slack channel had a question about projects. Is the capstone the only, quote unquote project in the course, or are there projects throughout the course?
There's projects throughout the course. There's a lot. Yeah. Every module in the course has a little project associated with it. They all do. There's tons of projects, lots of code that you get to write and figure out.
All right, cool. And then finally, so this is a specialization on Coursera, but there's also a certification component to it. What's that about?
Yeah, so the whole purpose of this course one of the purposes of the course, I guess, was to prepare you to take a certification exam. You can actually go and to Pearson VUE and sign up for this exam. If you've taken the course, there's a pretty good chance you're going to pass it, but it's a tough exam. And essentially what this gives you is an official IBM certification. And it's a formal certification that you get, a professional certification that you get from IBM. So employers we have the capability of checking through the IBM certification system to see if you have it and verify that you have it. And you get to have a little badge that you can put on your signature or whatever that says you're certified for the AI Enterprise Workflow. And the URL right there, ibm.biz/AI-workflow-cert, will tell you everything you need to know about the test itself, the certification test. It'll take you out to the Pearson website, where you can find a location to take the test and pay for it, and after you've completed the Coursera course.
Cool. All right. So that's the certification. So for the study group, we'll be starting that, essentially immediately. If, the course that we've just talked about sounds interesting, and you want to participate in the study group with us, we'll be starting same time, same day, same bat channel next week with a review of the first course. And basically how this works is, we'll all spend the next week going through the first course. And then on the 22nd, I'll share a bit of a review, the main questions that were raised for me or my main takeaways, and then we'll just open it up for Q&A and discussion. And these sessions, as I mentioned earlier, they're fairly informal and, very open and community oriented. If we have folks interested in, working on projects or presenting their projects that are related to the lessons in the course, we've done stuff like that during study groups. So, it'll just kind of evolve based on, what folks are interested in doing.
Yeah, that's really great that you're doing that, Sam, because one of the problems that we faced in putting this course together is the fact that, Sam, if you and I were given a particular problem and we were asked to, build some code to solve it, our code would probably look very different from each other.
Mm-hmm.
I'm prone to use some of the older Python libraries just because that's when I learned it. And somebody else might really be into the newer Python libraries. So in that way, there was really no way to quote unquote grade or assess the code, because it could all be different. It could all work just well, but it could all be different. So the fact that you're getting together and like sharing and assessing each other's code, the folks that are going to be in this study group are going to get a lot more out of this course than somebody who's just doing it by themselves. This is it's going to be an exponential increase in their knowledge, I think.
Yeah, that's what we tend to see. And the Slack channel, tends to be lively around these courses with folks. Sometimes you run into a problem when you're working on this stuff and you want to see if other folks are running into the same thing or to get some help. And that's what the study groups are here for. So this schedule is already posted in the Slack channel. I guess I should mention, for folks that came here and are not already a part of the community and the Slack channel. So to join the TWiML community and our kind of meetup and study groups, there's a page on our site, twimlai.com/community. Just go there, fill out a form. Once that form is submitted, through some back-end magic, you'll get an invitation to our Slack channel, or our Slack, our Slack workspace. And then once you're there, we've got separate channels for the various study groups. And so this one is called, I'll put it in I think they're underscores.
I bet it has workflow in the title.
Yep, AI Enterprise Workflow. And that's where this study group schedule is posted. And so at this point, we've already got some questions. I'll jump right into those. If you have a question, you can just type that into the chat. If you want to ask your question, you can, via voice, you can raise your hand and we'll have you set you up to talk. That's an option as well. There was one from Jim, kind of given the the schedule. Is it essential that everyone adheres to that schedule and that timeline? Are there peer-reviewed assignments? So what happens if you take a couple weeks off? So, it's essentially self-paced through Coursera. This is the schedule that, we will try to adhere to. I say try to because we've definitely had situations in the past where, whoa, course 3, week 2 was a doozy, and everyone, needed, 2 weeks instead of 1 to get through it. And we've kind of adapted on the fly. But our intention is to align with the course as designed, which is each of the courses each of the courses has, except for the 6th course, has a week 1 and a week 2. Mm-hmm. Each of those weeks has, anywhere between 2 and 4.5 hours worth of content. And that content includes like video content, but Coursera also rates your reading time, so that's the amount of time you're expected to be on input mode, consuming the content. And then there's like homework and quizzes and all the projects and, stuff that you might do outside of the Coursera platform. But we'll aim to stick to this schedule. But if you, fall behind or can't make a session or need to take a couple weeks off, we'll be recording the sessions just like we're recording this one, and the videos will be posted to the Slack channel, so you can stay caught up.
Sam, I did want to mention one thing during the course. Please, by all means, give us feedback on the course. This was there's a lot of work went into this course, but there's probably some mistakes here and there, and we are already thinking about your Rev 2 of this course, the next revision. So please, while you're going through it, give us feedback on whatever you like, the content or the code, whatever, and we will take it into consideration when we're putting out the next version.
Cool. Yeah, I already sent in some feedback to Mark. I found that I'm mentioning this in case anyone else has run into this or is going to run into this. The quiz, Coursera's grading tool for the assessment has like timeout issues. So it'll tell you got 40%, but that's because all of your code examples timed out.
Exactly.
So just keep submitting it if you want, or just say, yeah, I know I was right, and pass it. Either way is fine. There was another question here. So about Coursera, am I required to enroll in Coursera? So Coursera, when you're on the website, Coursera strongly encourages you to sign up for the course, which is a monthly fee of like $79 a month, I think. Mm-hmm. I think that's specific to this course as opposed to like everything on Coursera.
Right.
But if you look closely, there's a link and an option to audit the course. And so you don't have to pay to take the course or participate in the study group. If you audit the course, Coursera won't let you submit your quizzes and homeworks and stuff like that for grading. So that's a disadvantage, but if it's up to you which of those options you want to choose. I will share a link in the chat. IBM has arranged for folks that join their learning community on the IBM site to get a free month of Coursera / the course. So if you do that, you can, do that for at least a couple of the courses.
Yeah, and let me put in a pitch for that community. It's turning out to be quite a vibrant little community. I would, please, if all of you guys would sign up for it and just start pitching in and entering in some of the discussions and whatnot, that would be wonderful.
All right, so I'm going to open up the line here to a question, a raised hand from Wendong Zhu. Wendong, do you want to ask your question?
Hey, sorry, I actually clicked a wrong button. So I'm fine.
Well, great to talk to you.
We can hear you.
Do you have any impromptu questions?
I'm good. Thank you.
All right, sure.
It was nice talking to you, Wendong. Very, very, very deep analysis.
So that was our example of how question asking works, raising your hand. Oh, so now we've got some hands. Awesome.
There we go.
So Amit. We can't hear you, but you're not muted.
Amit Chopra, come on down.
All right. Enrique. All right, going once, going twice, Amit or Enrique.
Can you hear me? Hi.
Yes, hi.
Hi, thanks for this. My question is, I work for a startup. We're only like 15 people. So like this idea of a large enterprise workflow, like, will this be useful for me? We're at like a data science startup and we build like solutions for different companies, but we're not like a big company.
Yeah. I think, this would definitely be, if you're building solutions for other companies, then I'm pretty sure this course is going to help you to understand a little bit about what's going on in those other companies. So, I mean, essentially, that's what this course is somebody coming in from a data science practice working for a large company. So it would be like you know, I assume this is Amit. Is this Amit?
Enrique.
Oh, Enrique. Okay, sorry. I'm sorry. Yeah, Enrique. That basically, yeah. I mean, this is kind of like would be a simulation of what you might be going through. You know, coming in and working for a big company. So I think it would be very useful for you. Absolutely, you're going to learn a lot about best practices and. You know, I think one of the things I've learned about this course, you know, having run through multiple edits and multiple reviews, every data scientist, no matter how experienced they are, always says, you know what, I learned something here. I picked up one cool, useful thing. So I guarantee you're definitely going to learn something useful.
All right, awesome. Thanks.
Yeah, and my take on that is I think the kind of enterprise-ness of the course is kind of shows up in a couple ways. One is an emphasis on kind of building repeatable processes and workflows and that kind of thing. And that is, you know, absolutely transferable, you know, wherever you go. And the other is in kind of the choice of tools. And so, you know, deploying on Spark is kind of an enterprisey, you know, choice.
Right.
You know, there's some Kubernetes discussion in here. But you know, you see Spark and Kubernetes both at startups as well.
Absolutely.
You know, I don't think either of those is, you know, necessarily, hey, you need to be at a 10,000 person company in order for this to be useful for you.
Exactly. And I think the other point too is one of the, like, I think when we introduce Watson Studio, one of the things that we say is, you know, most of us are used to using our own tooling on our own machines, but one of the things that Watson Studio enables is collaboration. You can actually share notebooks and code within the tool to other data scientists, and you can break up you store things as projects, and you can break up those projects into different distinct work units that other data scientists can work on. So you can have your data engineer working on the front end, and you can have your data scientists doing feature engineering. You can have some other data scientists building, you know, working on the models, all inside of Watson Studio. So that's another sort of, like you said, to use your term, Sam, enterprisey aspect of this.
Oh, nice. Thank you.
Thanks for asking, Enrique.
Sure.
A couple of folks said that they are asked some questions about this IBM link discount thing. And this is the link here. It is in the chat window, community.ibm.com/community/user/AI learning/Coursera. And you sign up for an IBM ID and join this AI learning community that Ray mentioned, and you get a complimentary month of select IBM programs on Coursera. I'm not sure what select IBM programs means, but my understanding is that this course qualifies.
Right.
New AI Enterprise Workflow specialization. There you go.
There you go.
So if you have any challenges with this, let me know or post in the Slack.
I think that the select courses, Sam, are listed further down on the screen there. The specialist badges that you see there, those are the courses that you can also get. Aside from the AI Enterprise Workflow, there's Applied Data Science, Advanced Data Science, and Data Science Foundations.
Cool. All right. So back to Q&A. What other questions do folks have?
Long time listener, first time caller.
Cost for the certification exam. Oh, good question.
I believe it's $200. I believe. I'm 95% confident that it's $200 each time you take it. So
got it. Name for the channel for the study group, AI Enterprise Workflow. It's also in the Slack somewhere. I mean, the webinar chat. See, have we got all the questions? Marcelo is insistent on having us talk about the Terminator.
Yes, I've seen some references to Sarah Connor and to Arnold. Yeah,
Arnold, get down.
Get down. Get in the chopper.
Some of the topics you mentioned, for instance, in data engineering, exploratory analysis, seem fundamental, basic for a data scientist. Are there more advanced topic, for example, use of evolutionary algorithms in feature engineering?
Yeah, that's a great question, because that gets back to the point I made earlier about how difficult it is to teach feature engineering. I don't believe we cover evolutionary algorithms in the course. I agree. With regard to feature engineering, the stuff we cover is fairly elementary. Really, we were focused there on best practices. But I think that's a fair statement to make. I think it is true, because feature engineering is just. I was surprised how much challenges we had putting that one together, because there's just so much you can do. It's a very big area. So.
Evolutionary algorithms and other advanced topics in modeling.
I will take this back as feedback, though. I mean, I said, we are building, another version of this guy. So, that might be something we could include later.
I still don't see the IBM link in the chat. Okay. I'm putting it in the chat right now. Right there.
Boom.
It's there. And 2 above that is the link to the specific channel in Slack.
No references to Sarah Connor here.
Yeah. Oh, man. So Jess is like, I told you like 10 times you have to send to all panelists and attendees.
Yes.
All right. So there's the IBM link. And here is the link to the Slack channel. Dang it.
There you go.
Thanks, Jess.
Keeping you on your toes, Sam.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. So Amit is asking, Ray, really about the value of the certificates, courses, that kind of thing. Like when you're interviewing, or the people that you're talking to in enterprises, when they're hiring, like, do they pay any attention to certificates like this?
It varies widely. It really does. Right now, right now it seems to be like, 30, 30, 30 right now. I mean, there's 30% of people that are hiring that will pay attention to it all the time. There's 30% that just don't care. And then there's 30% that will pay attention to it based on a particular, condition, or, if they're looking for somebody in particular. But that's something that's another thing that we're trying to change in this with this course, is to bring forth the importance of making sure that somebody who shows up at your door at your large enterprise actually knows what they're doing. And we went the route of building a professional IBM certification to do that. Now, when I say that, you have to remember or keep in mind that building these certification tests and whatnot is a lot of work. We spent many hours putting the test together, for all sorts of reasons. Number one, of course, which is, legal reasons. I mean, basically, we're giving an official certification that somebody might use to get hired with, and if that could possibly come up with a legal issue, like, hey, they got hired and I didn't, we had the same certifications. One of the things that we do in the process of building the certification is ensuring that it's locked down, and every single question in there has a reasoning for it, and is linked to names of people that came up with it and evaluated it and whatnot. So from our perspective, it was a lot of work to put together. It means a lot, from our perspective. However, out in the, once you get out in the real world, there's a tremendous amount of variance there right now.
Mm-hmm. I think it's probably fair to say that, we're not at the stage in AI where there's like a CCIE, where that was a Cisco certified internet engineer, where
exactly.
back in the day you had that, and that was like
exactly, or all the Microsoft, MCSE certification,
right? All of those things. We're not quite there yet.
No,
but,
definitely not.
Whether or not you take the certificate, I think being able to talk broadly about end-to-end workflows and how to, get models into production and monitor them, is an important skill that folks are looking for, that will differentiate someone from, someone who's just taking modeling courses or a boot camp or
exactly.
Like that.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing. That's exactly right, Sam. If somebody sees this on your resume and they ask you about it, you can say, "Oh yeah, I learned about the end-to-end workflow, particularly bias mitigation, monitoring, my models." So yeah, I think from that perspective, it helps you to sell yourself.
Mm-hmm. So Vince is like, Vince and Jess are like, so I want a job at IBM. Which 30% is IBM in?
Oh,
we're looking at this certification.
No, we care. Yeah, we definitely care about this certification. This one's pretty important.
We'll have to work out the express lane for folks that take the study group that want jobs at IBM.
Oh, I cannot. I'm a big IBM cheerleader. The company's been very good to me. It's IBM's the closest. I've had a long career. I'm very old. I've had a long career working in a lot of places, and IBM's the closest thing to a true meritocracy that I've experienced in my life, and I genuinely love working for that company. It's a great place to work for.
So I just realized that I've been paying attention to the chat and not the Q&A. And so folks that are doing things right have been posting questions in the Q&A. Prerequisites. We kind of talked about this, but a quick take on prerequisites specifically for the first course. That's what Luis is asking about.
Yeah. So basically, the prerequisite is quote unquote a practicing data scientist. So we're not going to show you how to set up your Python and Jupyter notebook environments on your computer. You should already know how to do that. We're not going to explain probability theory to you. You should already know probability theory. You should already understand the role of vectors and matrices. So you should already know your elementary linear algebra. You should already have all that in your head. So because we just go right in and start talking about sparse matrices. Bam. There's no like, well, what's a matrix and blah blah blah. No, it's you have to, so all of the basics of Python, the basics of Jupyter notebooks, the basics of the machine learning libraries in Python, the basics of some of the fundamental algorithms like logistic regression, neural nets, things of that nature, basic probability theory, and basic linear algebra. If you've got all those basics, and you're good to go.
And is the course? Would you say the course is more geared towards kind of data science and kind of classical machine learning than deep learning and quote unquote AI?
Yeah, that's a very fair statement. Yeah, just more classical machine learning. Yeah, we do talk about deep learning. We do discuss it in the course as one of the algorithms, but we don't get into it as one of the deep exercises.
Okay. Can you talk a little bit about, so you mentioned kind of the scenario avail.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk a little bit about the kind of use cases that are explored?
Yeah. So basically, so you're introduced to this. It's a company that is. So the story is that it's a company that does streaming, media streaming, kind of like like Netflix or Disney Plus, except they have a really interesting trick. They feed their feeds through machine learning algorithms that change the language and the movement of the lips to match the language of the viewer. So they've deployed this technology in different markets worldwide. They have some limited success in America. Now they want to expand because they're having some problems in terms of revenue. Revenue is flat. Sales are flat. Subscriptions are flat. So they really want to like up their game. So they want to look for new markets. So the first problem that you're presented with is, what data are available out there? What do I have out there? What kind of data are they gathering on their subscriptions, on their subscribers? The next thing is, where do we want to do the next use case is, where do we want to do an initial test of our technology, of our marketing? It turns out we select Singapore for that. Once Singapore is selected, we go on to the next level of deciding the different characteristics of the subscribers. So that's where you start getting into the feature engineering and whatnot. And then we want to be able to predict who's going to drop out, which subscribers are going to drop out, who's going to unsubscribe. So we go through the process of building those models, I should say. So yeah, it's basically, from a marketing perspective, I guess that would be the best way to characterize these use cases. It's really from a marketing perspective, helping this company to come up with ways of predicting customer churn, classic
a lot of classic
exactly, classic use cases. Exactly. Yeah.
So we'll close out with there were a couple questions kind of along the lines of other resources or courses.
Yeah.
One of those is, you mentioned, for folks that don't have those prerequisites, do you have any particular courses that you recommend?
Yeah, I would definitely, there's a couple of areas. On this page that you have up right now, there's a data science foundations link there at the bottom.
Is this one here?
Yeah, there's that one. That's a pretty good one. Then advanced data science. And these three courses here are like great starts for it. And, that's just our stuff. Coursera has tons of introductory stuff, but these three courses are great.
We also really recommend the fast.ai courses.
Yeah, those are good. Those are very good. Yes.
They've got the fast.ai machine learning course covers kind of some of the same material, but from a Maybe more, you get to more of the basics, but not necessarily the math. They've also got like a linear algebra course that we've never done a study group for. I don't remember if it's a course or just a really good series of blog posts. And then some folks have asked about, well, hey, if I really, really want to do deep learning, what course? And for that, I strongly recommend the Fast.ai Deep Learning for Coders course. And they are starting a new version of that coming up soon.
Oh, that's good to know.
And we will be, there's active conversations right now. Study group organizers are organizing, and we'll be hosting a study group for that deep learning for coders, the new version, very soon. Abhishek's saying, let's do a study group for the Fast AI linear algebra, computational algebra course. Jump on in the Slack in general and talk it up and see if you see anyone that wants to, go through it with you. That's how it works.
Yeah. The Fast AI courses are phenomenal. They're great. They're very well done.
Absolutely.
Great
way
to learn the basics.
Cool. Ray, thanks so much for taking the time to, share with us the details of the course and everything that's gone into it. Really enjoyed chatting with you about it, and looking forward to taking it with all of you who've spent this hour and change with us.
Absolutely. And Sam, thank you again so much for having me on, and thanks for everything that you've done to help us out, to push this course out there. And everybody, good luck with it, and have fun.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.